Hello, this is Siwing Yi. Welcome back to another episode. And today I'm going to share my screen and let you know what is the topic. And the topic comes from the Redfin news. And the title just came out today, November the 15th on Tuesday. The title is Home Buyers Need $107,000 annually to afford the typical US home, up 46% from a year ago. Okay, I have highlighting some of the paragraphs, so let's get started. A home buyer, like I said, need about $107,000 to afford the almost $2,700 of monthly mortgage payment. That's principal and interest on the typical U.S. home. The typical U.S. home is probably around the $400,000 range, give or take. All right. So anyway, up 45%, almost, you know, skyrocketing income that are needed from a year ago. A year ago, due to the very, very historical low interest rate, all you need is $73,000 annual salary to afford a median price of a home. Now is $107,000. And again, not only the higher mortgage rate that people are paying right now, around 7%, is also combined with the persistency high skyrocketing home prices that has occurred during the pandemic real estate boom. So the average US hourly wages grew by a measly 5% over the same period, and inflation is also cutting into the would-be buyer's budget. So basically, I mean, if you are in the the working class, middle class type of home buyers, then your wages have not kept up with the skyrocketing home prices. That's why we're having around 40-year low in home affordability in the past few years. So that's I don't know how we're gonna fix that. So let's continue with this article, and the the income required to buy a home has skyrocketed as mortgage rate rose at the fastest pace in history, reaching 7%. Although a few days ago, the rate has decreased to around 6.6%, which is biggest single day decline on record a few days ago, uh, upon news that inflation has cooled just a little bit. So this is a temporary thing based on the ongoing volatility of the interest rate. So home prices also continue to increase for much of the year, although they have now started declining from their peak, and year-over-year growth has now slowed to around 3% annual appreciation nationwide. Uh, Around 6 months ago, around May 2022, the average appreciation nationwide in 400 metros is in double digit. Now, due to the skyrocketing of interest rate from 3.5% earlier, the beginning of this year, to almost 7%, it just really pulled the demand down to the toilet. So that's what's happening. Okay, so getting back, then look at this graph. Back in the 7-year time span from 2015 to right now 2022, look at this. The median price of a home back in 2015, 7 years ago, all you need is around a little bit more than $40,000 annual salary to afford to buy a home. So, and then as home prices have increased year over year from 2015 to 2016, 2017, and the wages, the percentage increase of wages have not kept up. So even from 2015 to 2019, we have seen the salary that are needed to afford median price home is between the low 40,000 to the $60,000, around that. Then when the pandemic hit in 2020, we seen a skyrocketing home prices from 20 to 21. Look at from 2021 throughout you look at this skyrocketing of home prices, 30, 40, 50% in the past few years of the pandemic. and then look at the correlating median price has jumped up to almost 80 grand at the beginning of the pandemic. Then it leveled off during the 2021 when the interest rate has skyrocketed from 3.5% earlier this year to from the past 6 months until September timeframe. You see that? You see the income required from 60,000 even like a year and a half ago in the early part of 2021, income required has become like from 60,000 salary equals $107,000 salary, and we're talking almost double the salary just because of the interest rate rise, the higher mortgage payment, and higher housing prices. And then look at here, October 2022, which is last month, the salary required to buy a median price of a home is 107K. This is absolutely insane. I don't know how else to put it. So that's why people are being priced out of the home affordability factor, rising home prices, and rising interest rates. So people are waiting. That's why many people are waiting on the sideline right now as we speak for these main fundamental reasons. Now, so the American family from the beginning of the pandemic, right before until last month, the monthly payment for an American family buying the median price home increased by 70%. Affordability challenges are a major reason why home sales have slowed so dramatically over the past few months. Yes, home sales have decreased. Everything, listings has decreased. New listings, year-over-year listings, everything just have decreased to a point where there are very, very few buyers out there. So let me see what else. This Redfin agent was interviewed, and Chelsea Trailer, and she said higher rates are making buyers rethink their priorities, as many of them can no longer afford the home they want in the location that they want. Said Washington D.C. Redfin agent Chelsea Trailer. So if you have a $900,000 budget a few months ago, rising rates means that it's now $700,000. So you have to downgrade. So, and sellers aren't dropping their prices enough to make up for the change. So buyers are searching further away from the city in more affordable areas, or waiting for prices and or rates to come down before making a move. So Trailer continued to say, she said, I'm encouraging buyers to think long term. Prices are unlikely to fall drastically in the long run. So buying a home now, if you can afford a monthly mortgage, will still help you to build wealth over time, especially if you plan to live in it for several years. So even though rates are high, another advantage of buying now is the lack of competition and opportunity to negotiate with sellers. I think the same way. I've been doing this for 30 years. I specialize in real estate investing for our investors mainly. I'm not a realtor, so I can speak objectively that if people can afford it, right, and they have a good job, they have a stable income, and they have good cash reserves, if they can afford the higher monthly mortgage, and they intend to stay, they love their home they want to buy, if they want to stay in the neighborhood for 7 to 10 years or more, long term that is, then who's to say they should not buy a home right now? One more thing, I know the next sentence I'm going to say, it sounds very cheesy. So you could essentially quote, date the interest rate and marry the house, and end quote. All right. So yeah, that's right. Because if you feel out, if you can afford it based on the criteria I just mentioned, if you can afford to buy a house now, knowing that you have to ask yourself, is the interest rate ultimately going to come down? I think so. I think so. We don't know. We just don't know when. Right now it's 7%. Some people say it may go up another, uh, 50 basis point or even another 1% to 8%. Some people may say that. Only time will tell because next month, December, I believe the Federal Reserve going to do one more rate hike. Bear in mind, just because the Federal Reserve uh, may push for another rate hike before the year is over in December next month, it does not mean that the mortgage rate will rise. As you could see a few days ago, the Fed raised the interest rate, the rate, but the mortgage rate conversely has came down. So I'm not going to go over the reason why, other than that the Federal Reserve themselves do not raise the mortgage rate. It is all depends on the 10-year Treasury. That's the benchmark they use. And as long as the inflation in the next coming year to start to subside, in my opinion, then the mortgage rate will be lower. So there are some real estate experts say that the interest rate sometime 2023 next year may decrease to around 5.5%. I hope so, because if that's the case, we may have a housing frenzy, which I discussed on my other video that I recorded earlier this week. So yeah, so very interesting. So again, if you're confident about buying now, you have all the good reasons to buy. You have a long-term buy and hold strategy. Who's to say, in 7 to 10 years, every cycle the market will come back. The house in real estate historically may go through various corrections every now and then, but over the long run, people always make more money, create more wealth long term, right? So that's the mindset you have to have. So if you want to take the plunge right now, so still a lot of people are waiting on the sideline for whatever reason. They don't have enough down payment. They just can't afford it, and until if the interest rate will come down in the foreseeable future, right? So anyway, let me see what else. Okay, 16. This article mentioned 16 of the 20 metros, which is quite a large percentage, where the income necessary to afford a home has increased the most are in the Sun Belt. No surprise, Sun Belt are in the West, which is California, Nevada, Arizona, and even a little bit of Boise, Idaho. On the Western region, that's the Sun Belt. And the Sun Belt on the other region of the U.S. are mainly in the South and Southeast, like Texas and Florida, Georgia. You may even include North and South Carolina, a little bit of a Sun Belt. So those areas has been very, very popular during the pandemic. And it's very affordable, warm weather. Most people like warm weather and the remote work. All those reasons have during the pandemic have driven up prices in the process. So, by the way, Florida is on top of the list. By the way, just so you know, some of you know what I do. I help mom and pop real estate investors to buy cash flow turnkey properties in the most affordable markets, mostly in a Sun Belt state. So many of our investors for the past 20 years, I have guided them to buy out-of-state cash flow homes, a lot of it in Florida over the past almost 20 years, actually. So what I'm about to say is I can really resonate because we have very good experience in this market in Florida, and we have very ethical teams in the local area in Florida to help our investors to buy out-of-state cash flow, single-family home, residential investing. So let me tell you exactly what's going on. Several Florida metros, including Northport and Cape Coral. Yes, I bought several properties in Cape Coral 20 years ago, and hundreds of our investors have purchased Cape Coral region area for many years, and we will continue to do so. Now, here's a very interesting sentence right here. Several Florida metros, including Cape Coral, were hit hard by Hurricane Ian in September, yes, resulting in sharp drops in pending sales and new listings. Yes, this region has grown very fast, skyrocketing home prices during the pandemic, especially in the Cape Coral area. And now that the Hurricane Ian has destroyed a lot of homes along the coastal area of Southwest Florida, and Cape Coral area. But so as a result, the inland, right? If you in Cape Coral and further out into the suburbs, a lot of those areas are spared by the hurricane because for various reasons, especially there are a lot of non-hurricane zones you can still people still live, Cape Southwest Florida, Cape Coral area. And if your home's up in a higher elevation, is not in a flood zone, those are the most desirable areas, like Northport, Port Charlotte, and Lehigh Acres, and LaBelle, Fort Myers. And if you go inland, the inland have not been hit by Hurricane Ian as much as the coastal area, like Sanibel Island and Fort Myers Beach, that has been really hard hit. So, and this article said it remains sharp drops in pending sales. That's true, and new listings. That's true. So the inventory level is extremely low in Cape Coral area, in this area. Then the article says it remains to be seen whether that will translate to outsized price declines. Well, I can only say that I work with our team on the local area in Cape Coral over the years, and they are telling us that they have not seen any home price declines since the hurricane. In fact, they anticipate that the people still moving or migrating into Cape Coral, Southwest Florida area, even after the Hurricane Ian. So because of the low supply of homes, still the migration is still occurring by baby boomers and millennials into this area. So the hurricane is not going to affect anything. In fact, the prices are still consistently rising, and the rental market is really, really strong as well in the Cape Coral area. So a lot of people that had their home destroyed, they need a place to live. They have money to pay the rent quite high, because those coastal homes that were destroyed by hurricane, they are multi-million-dollar homes in Sanibel Island and at Fort Myers Beach. So a lot of those millionaires, they lost their homes. Most of them, the so-called millionaires that had their home destroyed by the hurricane, they had the money to temporarily to rent while the insurance company are trying to pay out the claims. So they'll be fine, but only the middle class and the lower class people, they are impacted by the hurricane, where they don't have the money to rebuild. So those millionaires out there, whatever insurance money they get, they're going to rebuild because they have the money to rebuild. The coastal area hurt by the Hurricane Ian, they will come back because people will always like to vacation, to enjoy the sunshine associated with being in a Southwest Florida area. So long term, the Cape Coral and the suburban area are growing very fast, and the rental market is very strong. The rent has skyrocketed. So a lot of good reasons. So in my personal opinion, you're not going to see any kind of price declines in most good areas, especially inland that are not in the flood zone, that are especially when you have new homes that are being built that are complying with the hurricane safety standard. So yeah, and those new homes that are being built in this region, their insurance have nice their insurance are pretty reasonable, their insurance premiums. So contrary to what the mass media may have really not telling the whole story. So this area, Southwest Florida, Cape Coral, Northport will continue, and Port Charlotte and Lehigh Acres and LaBelle will continue to grow quite a bit because huge demand of people and investors, especially a lot of investors are moving, big time investors, as a matter of fact, they are entering this Southwest Florida market to use their own money to rebuild the homes, rebuild the resource area, the beach areas, and they had the big bucks, so they gonna restore the area fairly quickly. And mom and pop investors, they can still buy cash flow properties moving inland in the Cape Coral area. into Lehigh Acres and LaBelle, Port Charlotte, and Northport. So there's a lot of still reasonable price homes. Out-of-state investors can buy for cash flow because the rent is very, very high relative to the home prices. So just give you a little bit deviation from my presentation here. So the areas that have the smallest income that are needed to buy a home are basically the areas that have not skyrocketed in home prices, and those Chicago and the Midwest, just so you know, have the lowest gain of income necessary to buy a home, because again, they have not gone through they're not part of the pandemic boom that occurred as related to the other areas of the U.S., such as California and Boise, Idaho, Phoenix, Arizona, Las Vegas, Austin, Texas, right? You know, this trophy markets, if you will, that has grown. Prices have skyrocketed, but they are considered overvalued. So those few trophy markets, they're going through some price reductions. But same with California, same with Bay Area, where I live for the past 33 years here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Look at this. This article goes on to say that the Bay Area has a smaller than average increases in salary to afford an income property of a home. But then again, the median price of a home in Bay Area in many areas are like $2 million homes, and those homes are barely 1,800 square foot, built 80 years ago. That requires some rehab and upgrade as it is. So a cookie cutter home is costing almost $2 million in the San Francisco Bay Area, which is mind-boggling. So not only that, you still require a typical buyer of a home in the Bay Area, San Francisco, requires almost $500,000 of income salary to afford to buy a median price of a home. Even though the home prices in California has dropped more than other part of the country, and you still need almost $500,000 of income. Now, who can afford that? And of course, San Francisco, San Jose, Oakland, the entire Bay Area, you need $400,000, $363,000, and $247,000 to afford a median price of a home in the San Francisco Bay Area. This is mind-boggling. So this article goes on to say home buyers in 45 major metros need $100,000 or more to afford a typical home. Yes, 45 major metros. So every place is a little bit different. Every local market is different, but I'm talking from a high level. So as you can see, this paragraph continued to mention that the Bay Area have the highest income level required to buy a home. So it's always, California is always exception to the rule. It's a cyclical market. It goes up a lot over time, over the years, but when there's a correction, our market in California, not only Bay Area, in LA, Southern California, LA, Orange County, San Diego, same thing. Skyrocketing home prices over the years, low affordability, very high price, and we're going through some sort of correction in some areas. The housing prices in California has decreased lately 10 to 15%, so that's pretty drastic. So, and as we conclude this article, again, Detroit and Dayton, Ohio, Cleveland, upstate New York, and Pittsburgh, as you can see, as I mentioned earlier, the Midwest area did not see the skyrocketing of home prices. So therefore, you could, those prices are still very low. So the income required to buy a home in the Midwest area, as I discussed, you don't need $100,000, or you need like $50,000 to $75,000 salary to afford to buy a medium home in the Midwest area, as stated in this article. So some areas are skyrocketing, some of the country, some areas have not skyrocketing home prices, and you can still afford to buy a home. So real estate is local, right? It's not nationwide. So it all depends what neighborhood you are trying to buy real estate, buy a house. what market, what region. Every market is different. Real estate is very, very local. So this chart, as I conclude this video, this chart could just share with you what's the annual income required to buy a median price of a home in some of these areas throughout the country, according to Redfin. So as I said, in addition to Cape Coral, Northport, you require $131,000 to buy a median price of a home, which is in this case $488,000 right now. Miami also very, very expensive. It skyrocketed a lot. The home prices, you need about $128,000 average salary for a median price of a home in Miami. Tampa, Cape Coral, at least 100 grand to buy median price of a home. All the Florida prices has skyrocketed because everybody want to go to Florida. All right, so I'm not gonna go over all these little cities. You can see 100 grand in many areas in Florida, medium salary required to buy a medium price home. Charlotte, same thing. You can see the lower salaries are located in the Midwest mainly, as I indicated earlier. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So my takeaway is I believe the home buyers moving forward, not just now, you're going to have a lower expectation. So you cannot afford to buy the home that you wanted to buy a year ago. You have to, reset the expectation, buy in a lesser neighborhood, move further out, buy a smaller home. Even with if the interest rate potentially should come down inevitably in the foreseeable future, go over your budget, consult with your financial advisor. All of you primary home buyers that are sitting on the sideline right now, just go over your budget, see how you can afford the monthly mortgage based on your salary, based on your job stability, based on the interest rate. Do the calculation. So some of you can buy right now, and you are doing it because you have a long-term buy box, if you will. Some of you want to wait in the sideline. So just do your research, have a positive attitude. Home ownership is still the American dream, because if you continue to rent, when you're renting there, you cannot control your destiny. You're at the mercy of the landlord. If you're renting, you make it a landlord rich. I'm not saying that's bad, but you need to be determined which side of the fence that you're going to be in. You can be a renter forever, or you could be a renter temporarily. You ultimately want to become a homeowner, because most people create most of their wealth through real estate. That's the history. So if you want to part of the history in a good way, if you want to create generational wealth, whether you are a primary home buyer, whether you're a real estate investor as well. I specifically work with real estate investors out there for many years. I've helped thousands of real estate, mom and pop real estate investors to buy low single-family home prices in affordable areas, mainly in the South and Southeast, because you can cash flow at 25% down payment, monthly cash flow. So that's the key ingredient. So anyway, if you see value in this video, thank you for attending. Please smash the like button and also subscribe to my YouTube channel. And finally, at the bottom of this video on my website, if you want to be a part of our real estate investing community, all you have to do is submit your email into our newsletter database. You will receive on a weekly basis free real estate updates about real estate investing, so you can hopefully try to achieve financial freedom through real estate investing as well, not just buying a primary home to live. All right, so that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for attending. This is Siwin Yi, and I will see you on the next video on a weekly basis. Thank you for attending. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.